Welcome to Art History 201, Final Project Podcast. My name is Peyton, your host with the most, and today I'm here with Miranda Rohde. Miranda, thank you for being here. What will we be talking about today?
Thanks for having me, Peyton. Today we'll be talking about my subject for the final project in art history.
And what is the subject of that?
The hot topic is stained glass in Chartres Cathedral. But before we dive into the cathedral, I should catch you up on some history of stained glass in general.
Okay then, sounds good. Let's begin.
Then let's start with the origin of stained glass. Did you know it can be traced back all the way to ancient times?
No, that's crazy. How far back exactly?
To around 2750 BCE, in fact. Some of these findings weren't even windows, but instead beads, cups, or bowls. It wasn't until around the 5th century that stained or painted windows started to come into play. And as time continued into the 12th and 13th centuries, techniques to color the glass were being mastered and put to use within cathedrals. One of these techniques were quite popular during the time, and still even today, is to use metal oxides.
It's interesting. Were there any other popular colors craftsmen would use?
Well, yeah, the main 5 colors that they would use during this time period were actually cited here through Art History Encyclopedia. Bright ruby red, which came from copper oxide, sapphire blue from cobalt oxide, green from iron oxide, yellow from sulfur or soot, and finally purple from magnesium oxide. Would you like to know how the glass was put together to form a window?
Absolutely. Go on.
Great. Well, first one would start by taking individual pieces of colored glass and marking them with chalk to be cut. After cutting the glass to the preferred size needed, they would then be fitted into lead borders to create a panel. To finish this process off, the panel would then be mounted into a metal armature or frame.
It sounds like a lot of work. Well then, now that I have a better understanding of its history, let's move on to the stained glass within the Chartres Cathedral.
Hold your horses there, you're getting a little ahead of yourself. We've only just covered a brief history of glass, but you should also know some more history about the cathedrals as well.
Oh, sorry. That makes sense. Go on.
Well, cathedrals were and are well known for their magnificence in size, structure, and art. From their statues to their windows, depictions of the glory and works of God were spread throughout. During the time when these marvelous churches were being erected, majority of the population were not literate. So in order to help them make connections and feel closer to their God, stories, tales, and proverbs were the focus of the art. All right, you're pretty caught up now.
Excellent. The moment we've all been waiting for.
Glad to hear you're excited. So, Chartres Cathedral, then, is one of the more reputable cathedrals to come out of the Gothic era. It was built from 1190 to 1220 CE and is located in Chartres, France. The inside is mapped out like a cross with a rounded top to it. This cathedral is also dedicated to the Virgin Mary, so her image can be seen throughout it, including in the windows.
So how many stained glass windows are there in this place anyway?
That's a really good question. There are 176 stained glass windows, making it the largest collection of preserved medieval Gothic windows in the world.
Wow, that's a lot. Unfortunately, our segment won't allow us to cover all that.
Agreed, it would take far more time than what we have. Lucky for you, I have a couple favorites that we can go over within the show's time frame.
Perfect. Which windows are they?
Well, I'm a big fan of Zodiac, so my most favorite would be the Labors of the Month, Signs of the Zodiac. Then there's also the rose windows, which are very interesting. There are 4 of them, one for each major cardinal direction. However, I think it'll be easier to cover just one of the 4, the north rose window. To start, the north rose window is located on the left arm of the cross, and then across from it on the other arm and just a little up is the Zodiac window. So they're not particularly close to each other. And when I say cross, I mean the floor plan, of course.
Okay. Do either of these windows have anything in common?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, the windows throughout the cathedral actually do.
Oh, and what's that?
The windows are not just one window each, but collections of smaller windows to create one cohesive panel. The labors of the month, signs of the Zodiac window, for instance, includes 27 individualized pieces, whereas the North Rose window has 31.
That's crazy. If all the windows are like that, then there's way more than I can imagine.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. Well, while we're still on the subject of how they're similar in some ways, they happen to both contain a magic number per se, that number being 12.
And what do you mean by magic number exactly?
Well, you see, there are popular numbers that repeat in the Bible. For example, this would be the number 3, mainly for the Holy Trinity, but also for other reasons that I won't go into right now. More importantly for this subject, the number 12 is one of those repeating numbers and a symbol of faith in the Bible. For instance, there are 12 sons of Jacob, 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 disciples of Christ, 12 months of the year, 12 zodiacs, and the list goes on.
Crazy coincidence how it works like that. So how does this tie into the window then? Both of them having over 12 smaller ones?
Yeah, I was just kind of getting to that. I believe the zodiac window is somewhat straightforward since there are 12 months in the year and 12 zodiacs, as said before. The window depicts Christ sitting between the Greek letters Alpha and Omega at the top. He's in a 4-leaf clover. And then to his left are the labors of the month, and to his right are the signs of the zodiac, each having 12 on each side. The North Rose window doesn't give too much of a hint without some research. In the center, it contains an image of Christ being held by the Virgin Mary. Then the panels move outward. There are 4 doves above them and 8 angels to either side, creating a total of 12 panels around him directly. Then below them, then continuing outward, there are 12 kings of Judah, and even surrounded by those are finally the 12 prophets at the edge of the circle. Finally, below all of this, there are 4 panels that depict other kings. So it's they tie together not only with the 12, but the 4, like with the 4-leaf clover. So yeah, you can kind of see that the number 12 is super dominant there.
I see. So what's the purpose of repeating this number?
Well, as I've said before, it's a number of faith within the Bible. And in order to get the message across to the members of the church, since they couldn't read at the time, artists used more creative methods, like creating sets of 12 or other important numbers throughout their work within the church.
How inventive of them.
Indeed, it's an incredible tactic used to endow meaning without going overboard.
Well, I think that's all we have time for today. It's been a really informative chat we've had. Thanks so much for being here, Miranda.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thanks again for having me, Peyton. It's been a pleasure.